first of all, if someone's calling in and asking, are you affected by the strike? Right? Like, what's a general thing that how are you telling your team? I get it at Toyota, they're like, haha, we don't, that's not us. So anybody but Patrick, what would you be telling what are you telling your people?
I would say, if it was me, if
Yeah.
they did call my store, I would say, yes, of course we're affected by the strike. We're affected in many different ways, but I promise you one thing, Mr. Customer, you won't be.
Okay. Oh, that's fire. I thought I was, man, gosh darn it, Patrick. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Wheelhouse. And this week, something a little bit special for episode lucky number 7. We've got 3 of our top hitters that operate in the dealer space, and we're going to be talking specifically about headwinds and challenges that we're seeing in the dealer world right now, and what are the things that we're going to do that we can focus on to help us come out as winners. A quick disclaimer, of course, that everyone here is representing themselves, and their opinions and their thoughts are expressed only by themselves and not representative of any company or affiliated companies that they work with or represent. We've got Matt Haiken, Patrick, Abad, and Jen Suzuki, probably 3 of the best people that we could have on here for this. And so I'm going to just go around the horn to start. What are those biggest threats and challenges that you guys are looking for? We'll get to solutions later, but tell me what's on your periscope as being sort of the threats that dealers are seeing right now in the stores. Patrick, we can start with you.
I would say quality of the staffing. Product knowledge is, the last couple of years, has truly gone out the window, and I think it's really hard now to take people in our industry who've only been in 2, 3, 4 years and showing them the value that product knowledge and competitive knowledge, not just your own product, but what competitors' product is. I think to me, that is the biggest one we're facing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, 100% agreed there as everyone's coming out with more choices and new models. All right. Jen Suzuki, also in dealers every day, almost of every week. And what are you seeing in the different dealers that you're at?
I see a lot of stuff, but I'll tell you, I think we can never forget about the customer experience. Everybody's impacted. It's one customer, and there's a lot of touch points. So if we dial into all these touch points, and that includes service too, when everybody's not on the same team or on the same page with the same initiative, then things get disconnected. I'll give you a quick example. Like, a lot of times you have a BDC who's going to, they're going to start the relationship. They're going to ignite this, the needs assessment and the figuring out what the customer's in the market and this and that. And then if I don't translate that information to the salesperson who ups them, and they start them all over, we lose growth, we lose opportunities. That's one small example, but it's the same customer. And if we don't focus on the customer experience for everybody be on the same page, then we lose growth, we lose deals. It's harder to write up. It's more pencils. It's just, it's just a lot that doesn't need to be there.
I think one of the best things that I read that goes exactly along with what you said from my manufacturer and training that we have to do is that your client experience is based off of every touch point that right. client has with you, even the ones that you're not necessarily focused on or the most major ones. Every touch point factors in your client experience.
Like, everybody matters.
Right. Yeah, Matthew, how about you?
Listen, we're in the people business, so people is always our secret sauce. And when it comes to fixed operations, that's definitely the biggest challenge we have is finding these technicians to join our families here, and that's something that we all need to collaborate and work together on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, staying with the people theme, it's all about people, and now. We need the best. We've always needed the best, but we really need to be better than we've ever been, especially with the easy street we've had the last few years. It's not going to be that easy. The clouds are coming. We've got headwinds. We need to work together and really, pump up our people.
Right. And, and one of the things that we talked about before the show is, we're not intending to be an economic show, but it's definitely going to have portions in the show where we do talk about it. But, in this case, it's suffice it to say, we've got challenges either here or coming and either brewing to be bigger or, big as they are currently. And it's important that we figure out ways that we're going to win at those. I wanted to ask real quick, this was something that came up from you guys talking. One, Jen, so is our surveys and reviews, are we able to get good information, good feedback from those now? Is it no longer just a game of how to game the system? Are we able to get actual good, is there actionable information from these that we can take? And then Matthew, are you surveying your people at work to see what you could do better? Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, anytime that customers are going to take the time to leave a review, and a lot of times, I mean, I'm not leaving a good review half the time. It's a good experience, you know. It's when it's bad, maybe I start thinking about it. But you know, if we dial into the reviews and what people say, and a lot of times they do leave nice reviews, especially online. You know, I always say this to the sales teams. I say, read the online reviews. Be very aware of what people expect and that they like from you, because that's where we're going to nail it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of times you have these remote sales processes. And so if you don't have if you don't come with it in 5 minutes, you know, you got to have a lot of strategy here. It can't just be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm just working this internet lead just to be working it. No, when they pick up, boom, we have a strategy. You know, I want to meet customers' expectations and I want to meet them fast. So if I'm reading all the stuff that they say, yeah, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, obviously it gives us an opportunity to correct the things that didn't go right, but it gives us an opportunity to be sure that we're presenting the things that we do right.
Even in the negative reviews.
I did say do.
Yeah. Right. You did. Well, it's okay. You also kind of presented yourself as Karen Suzuki there also on your reviews that you not leave. If it's a good experience, I'm not leaving a review for that. It's what I expect.
Manager over there.
Matthew,
no, I'm obsessed with customer reviews and feedback. I mean, I live and die.
Are you doing it for your team though? For your employees?
So for my team, it's not. It's actually face-to-face time and listening. I'm about halfway through the Elon Musk Isaacson biography. I don't know if anyone out there.
That's exactly who I would ask about how to keep a team together.
But no, I mean, it's going from the ivory tower to the production floor, sleeping on the floor, being with the people on the front lines. And one of the skills that Elon has is being uncomfortably comfortable with silence. You know, back in the day, these meetings, these review sessions, they were one person, usually the alpha or the leader, yapping, talking. You don't learn anything from your people by doing that, but actually sitting down, asking questions, being super, super silent, and just absorbing the feedback. I mean, that's what I try to practice is try to bounce around and just get as many one-on-ones under my belt as possible.
What are we doing right? What could we do to improve? What's broken in our process? Yeah. I mean, those are good conversations.
All right, moving into a news topic here real quick that I don't think that we're talking about enough in the dealer world. So the Treasury says that in January, and this is something that's been in the works for 2 years. So I want to make clear the initiative isn't new, but it's like news almost to us. So that in January, they will the IRS will have a portal online, obviously, where dealers can go to then transfer your customer's EV tax credit from when they're buying a new EV that qualifies $7,500. Transfer that to the dealership. And then the dealership can apply that as a down payment. You guys know I'm clear on the record. Like we're sliding down a dangerous path here with the government basically making your down payment so that you can buy an EV. But then also, interestingly enough, there's a used EV tax credit. I will claim full ignorance to that. I was not aware that that's actually a thing. And there's probably a good reason for it. But half the amount essentially could also work on a used EV. So Matt, I know that I probably got the hairs on the back of your neck standing when we sent that out, right? And
I love this. I love this because, quite frankly, it's fantasy land. First of all, I'm all about point of purchase rebates, government incentives. Let us pass it on to the customer. Yeah. That I'm all about. Quick, easy, gets the deal done. But the qualifying vehicles and people just don't exist right now. The EV credit on a new vehicle is basically a lease. 80 to 90% of the manufacturers are passing that on in form of a rebate. So we don't need point of sale, point of purchase, nothing done. Customers are already qualifying. There's no income. So again, new EVs are built to lease because nobody could qualify if they don't lease based on how expensive the car is and income. And used cars and used car incentives are amazing for EVs. But that price point is just not in the marketplace right now. I believe the threshold is $25,000. If someone wants to check out IRA and check it, fact check me, but I think it's $25,000. There's no cars out there for $25,000. So used EVs are amazing. I mean, they're 50% off sticker right now, and still there's not enough buyers for these cars, but there's great value. And I'd love these customers to qualify for a tax incentive. But quite frankly, I don't think there's any cars out there that are
another reason to make sure that you lease it, right? Because you're not going to maintain any type of equity in it.
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy. EVs are built to lease right now. And if you're going to buy them, you're going to buy them pre-owned because they're 50% off MSRP.
Patrick, are you losing any deals to EVs? I mean, Toyota's being very seems very well thought out, very strategic, and they're waiting a few years to come out with a system that'll blow us all
I
away.
actually love Toyota's strategy when it comes to EV. And there was a stat that they shared at the Toyota National Dealer meeting that I think just blows everything away. For what it takes to build an EV, one BEV, right, battery electric vehicle, the materials, they can build 90 hybrids. Think about that. For what it takes to build one BEV, they can build 90 hybrids and 6 plugins, all with the same material that it takes to build one fully battery electric vehicle. So I love their strategy on pressing down on hybrids. I don't even get into the tax credits and all that because I'm in Georgia. I'm not in California. We don't even mess with that. But what I thought was interesting about that article, I read it. So I'm going to tell you, I wrote something down. I thought it said, this plan is going to be boosting America's manufacturing to create some good paying jobs with the EV tax credits. And I start to think about 5 other articles that I read that EVs are going to decrease jobs, which is, I think, total. I'm reading 2 different articles on one's going to create jobs, one's going to decrease jobs. I think it's like, and I also,
the more you go into it, the more you see that kind of stuff.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But that's why I love Toyota's strategy with hybrid technology, because if you really are about the carbon footprint, would you rather have one battery electric vehicle or a hybrid?
And then, Jen, I mean, in under a minute, is this what stores that have this available to them? Are they talking about it enough? Do they know how to explain it? Where's the opportunity here, or is it more of a liability?
I think, a lot of the salespeople don't know about all of these details because I hear it because the customers call in and then they don't know and things. But I don't know. I think you got to keep it.
I got to say, one of our stores is a brand dedicated EV store. When you're brand dedicated to EV, everybody knows. If you're not brand dedicated to EV, it's 5-Star Fred. He's the EV specialist. He knows about charging, tax incentives. I mean, that guy or girl has really become like the old internet manager. He's now your EV master of the store.
Yeah, he's your truck guy.
Exactly. So
I think if you don't know about it, it's easy to say the wrong thing. But at the same time, like there should be a level of knowledge about it to give yourself something, you know what I mean? That people are calling you as an expert.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of times they don't stay dialed into it because they're not selling the cars.
It also goes back to what I said about being the threat, right? The product knowledge of the salesperson, but also that type of knowledge, right? They didn't need it before, right? But they're going to need it. They're going to need to know every single angle to have a competitive edge.
So it's not crazy to go into your store. If you have EVs, it's not crazy to go into your store and say, we're going to look at what the tax law says. So we at least know it. We're not going to tell people that this is the tax law, but at least we need to have some familiarity with it.
That's right.
They might look at the customers, they call and they already know it, and then they're informing the sales teams.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And I like and some of those metrics about what it takes to build one car. That's interesting because we're going to talk about that again here in a minute. So yes, there is a strike going on, and if you're wondering why that didn't lead our episode, it's because we've been talking about it since before it happened. And we even, joked a little bit with Mr. Lanham, who will be making a return, I promise. And if he's not banished, he's just taking some much needed time off to recuperate. But about the severity of the strike. And so, again, we are not for fear mongering, and we're also not for completely baseless optimism. So we're going to just look at the strike from a couple different angles. One is that if for any reason anyone thought that having a strike just means that you're going to limit supply and increase demand, that's not how supply and demand works, right? Like just because there's a limited supply does not instantly mean you're going to have a lot of demand. And we don't have people sitting at home with the same amount of money that they had coming to them in the last couple of years. And people are going to have to start repaying student loans and all sorts of other things. So there's more economic headwinds than there were 2 years ago. People aren't sitting at home with as much cash as they were 2 years ago. And just because you're going to slow down production at a particular plant doesn't mean that there's going to have a whole lot of demand for that, right? But one of the things that was pointed out, though, also is that, we're talking about what it takes to build an EV. So Tesla being an example, Tesla says that its drivetrain has 17 moving parts.
Yeah.
Versus a gas powered vehicle that can have up to 2,000 in just that one area, right? So first of all, where is the advantages here? I know it sounds crazy, right? But there's got to be something we can use. If you're a store that is affected by a strike. Now, they're not striking it currently, except for Stellantis. It doesn't look like plants that are in very short day supply are the ones that are striking, right? And so like what is it that where's the advantage? Where is it an advantage for you if you're one of those dealers? Whereas certainly, where could be the disadvantage, and kind of like what would you be telling your salespeople if you're at a store that's affected, which is a lot by one of these strikes? What is it you're telling your sales team?
Well, I'll start with the logical explanation, which is how we operate. Right? Is you can never control what's going on in the new car world, but you can very much have a lot more control what's going on in the pre-owned world. And I think as an operator, a takeaway would be there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of dealers, a lot of people that just they just live in the new car world, and the used car world is just a have to have.
Necessary evil.
Yes, people still feel that way, even what we've gone through. And I think if you take out the new car operation and just turn yourself into really a badass used car dealer, no matter what, you'll never have to worry about a thing. And I think if these last couple years didn't teach you that, this should, right? Stay out of the control of the manufacturers and stay in control of your own destiny. And I think you do that through a badass pre-owned operation. So
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pre-owned
Honestly,
fixed, right? That hasn't changed.
yeah, I mean the strike. I don't want it in any of our frontline workers' mind, because again, we're gonna have something new next week. That that's the life we signed up for, and we've got a game. We got to get to the basics and take care of our guests and our customers. I'm more concerned about the legacy OEMs competing with Tesla, because this is just going to make Tesla even stronger. I mean, every conversation, every CEO says, based on Wall Street, our margins are just challenged and electrification is expensive. So we need to figure out how we're going to make more margins. And this just driving everything in opposite directions, where they're going to be stronger, we're going to be weaker. I mean, this is suicide unless everybody comes together and figures out a way.
But it's almost like we could just categorize this as like just another thing that can impact supply, right? Like whatever it is, right? The first day that we came into the store during the lockdown, right? And we were able to come into the store, and you could only come in if you had an appointment, and we had to lock the doors unless you had a secret knock. I don't know. It was anyway. And Patrick's looking at me like, we didn't in Georgia. We just
right. They didn't even wear masks.
You brought one shotgun instead of two into the store, and that's how we knew you were there for an appointment. But at that point, I remember the first day I looked around and the phone started ringing, right? And we were just like, oh my God, like the phone's ringing, right? And we're like, well, of course it's ringing. Like, because that doesn't stop. The frequency of it might change. And I was just like, you know what? We should get good at this, because the next time this happens, whatever this is, right? Because it doesn't matter almost necessarily what the root cause is. No. Whatever's keeping people out of the showroom, or whatever's worrying people about buying a car, and whatever's keeping cars from being delivered to your lot, that's just a category now.
I think Jen says it best all the time. We've done this a few times now together, right? She says it all the time, and I love it. Like, your guest experience actually matters more than ever, because if the number of people who are choosing to buy goes smaller, your percentage needs to be bigger, and the only way that's going to continue to rise is if you worry about the guest experience every step of the way.
Exactly. You can't afford to like skip a step or miss an opportunity to really make that customer feel appreciated and valued and welcomed into your store. Yeah, nurture client experiences. I think Matt just said that. I mean, it's always been the ticket. I think, the more frequency or the more volume you have of customers, it becomes more and more difficult. But, it's easier to get a grip on if it is a manageable group of people.
So the relationships that most of these clients have at these stores that just have great skills at building relationships. It's not about the brand. It's about the people there.
Yes.
And if there's headwinds that prevent them from getting that brand, they'll still go to that store with the relationship. Say, okay, what do I do? I need transportation. Where should I go? What do I do?
And who's the winners and who's the losers? At the end of the day, this whole strike deal, the consumer could be the loser, right? Because if If expenses go up, prices go up. That's just my opinion. And then it ends up passing on to the consumer. So now you got to go back to guest experience, because now you're talking about now you're asking people to pay more money. So, oh my gosh, now you're a big bad dealer again, right? So
everything costs more money. That's the same, you know what I mean? Like, it's going along the same lines. Like, if it wasn't the strike, it's inflation. If it wasn't inflation, it was they raise prices every year. If it wasn't, you know what I mean? It's like, there's always going to be more expensive than it was the last time.
That's exactly right.
So, if someone's calling, so first of all, if someone's calling in and asking, are you affected by the strike? Right? Like, what's a general thing that how are you telling your team? I get it at Toyota, they're like, haha, we don't, that's not us. So anybody but Patrick, what would you be telling what are you telling your people?
I would say, if it was me, if they did call my store, I would say, yes, of course we're affected by the strike. We're affected in many different ways, but I promise you one thing, Mr. Customer, you won't be.
Okay. Oh, that's fire. I thought I was, man, gosh darn it, Patrick. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I was going to suggest also, we would say that we certainly, as a retailer, we keep in our minds the hardworking people on both sides of the picket fence, and that we have deep respect and care about both of them and hope that it can be resolved soon enough. Mm-hmm. But from what I can see, we have enough cars on the ground to be okay.
We're all like so connected in the auto industry, and that's what I love the most. I mean, and today, looking at the news, it's like the people that have been affected the most today have been a lot of these small suppliers have started laying people off. I had a few text messages from customers, and they're like, "Oh, is this going to affect everything? Should I make a decision now?" And I'm like, "No, there's always something going on. Like, right. We're there for you. Just chill out, take a deep breath. It's day 4 today, I believe.
Right.
We're okay right now."
But it's, I think, and we'll roll this sort of into the next segment about how to, who's going to wind up being a bigger winner or loser, right? Because for our store, we're replacing our transport pickup with a new transport pickup from Ford, and obviously watched a lot of football on Sunday, saw the Ford commercials, felt like I got a Ford pickup too, right? And was telling everybody like, I ordered a Ford pickup, and they're like, no, you didn't. I was like, no, it's for the store. Okay. But anyway, so then I texted the GM of our Ford store and I was like, saw a bunch of Ford commercials on Sunday. Are we any closer to getting ours built? And the first thing he said was like, the strike's not affecting that plant yet. So, and I love him and I know what he was trying to tell me, but like, we're going to be getting questions like that. Right. I mean, and it's like, and we've seen, and to Matt's point, let's expand on that to make sure we didn't miss that. We are interconnected. Just because we're not necessarily talking about Delco, but if you're a parts supplier, you are probably providing parts to people who are also providing things to other manufacturers, other OEMs.
Absolutely.
And you can't weather another supply chain disruption. So is it worth it? It's one of those things. Do you bring it up or do you just not bring it up? Right. It's like, I'm not saying like, how do you have a kind of like you're out to dinner with your friend and that, they're being cheated on, but you don't say anything at dinner because that's not the right time to bring it up. But like at some point, do you, or do you just let it go, or what's the case? So is there some
it depends on who your audience is, right? Like you're not going to bring it up to the people in the front line. I want them pumped. I want them excited. Yeah. I never want that negativity in their head.
Yeah, is it worth calling your clients?
The last couple of years, like
yeah. Man, Patrick's got them dogs, right?
Yeah, I got renovations going on. Anyway, but think about what we've been through the last couple of years. Like we navigate all these things
all the time,
but so did the consumer, right? So did the consumer. The consumer navigated just as well. So I think they're just like, whatever. Let's just figure it out. Do you have a car?
Yeah, that could be. I mean, so then is it worth any kind of customer communication? Well, like we're not affected. We don't anticipate your vehicle to be affected by this strike, or is it, Jen, you're shaking your head. So no, you just leave it alone.
I don't like to be future tripping because anything could change at any time. Exactly. You know what I mean? So I haven't really heard customers say a whole lot in the last week. I haven't even gone after it yet. But at the end of the day, we've pivoted. We've been through headwinds. There's been a lot of storms in the last several years. We get through every single one of them and we're always on top, and at the end of the day, I think customers just need to know, like, look, we're looking out for you. Tell me what you're looking for. Let me find some options. Open the door of possibilities up for people.
Who's
going to be the real winner here?
I'll tell you who's not going to be the winner is the manufacturers. Well, they're without a doubt. I mean, they've got electrification on their mind. They've raised prices of all their new cars, thousands and thousands and thousands. That is baked in. It's not like us that had a great run and had some fat margins for a year and a half. That's coming down, and it's hard to get back up. The price of these cars have gone up thousands.
Yeah.
I mean,
but at the same time, the manufacturers are now understanding that they can build cars with fewer people. And so is this strike inadvertently or not, but is this pushing these top 3 OEMs more into lockstep with the US government now that they say, okay, well, if this is what we have to raise to pay for, but we don't need as many people to build cars? Because as far as I've seen, I could be wrong, I'm not the expert, but as far as I've seen, tenure isn't something that's on the table, right? So like so the OEMs are like, great, we need to eat these pay increases, which I have a question about that too, but okay, but we don't need as many people to build them. So then what did we do? And so isn't this kind of like, how many have you guys had people coming into your store or, applying for positions in your store and they want their comp to be based off of what it was for the last 2 years? And isn't that just kind of like what the UAW is doing a little bit? Maybe.
Interesting.
No. Okay. Well,
yeah. People are definitely trying to sell their dealerships based on their last 2 years of valuation.
Oh, there you go.
So that's definitely a theme that's coming up. But yeah, it's crazy. And again,
if you don't need as many people to build the cars, though, why don't you just say, okay, go ahead, have your fine. You know what I mean? But like, didn't Ford lay off 3,000 people before they even went into negotiations?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't call that a not power move. I don't know about you, but like you go into union negotiation after you just let go of 3,000 people and you're like, it just meets the needs of, that's our requirements for building cars is just different than what it was when we started this out. Yeah. But, if you guys go back into the episodes, we started out with an episode that said and it was based off a Wall Street Journal article at the time that Ford's profits are going to be becoming awkward. Right. And it's because of going to the negotiation table with the unions because they're going to look at those profits. However, they're looking at profits that we're all looking at saying that wasn't necessarily sustainable. That's not necessarily our business model moving forward. Like we capitalized on the market that was available. Mm-hmm. And now we're saying well, no, we kind of need to negotiate all of our terms based off of that. And I think that's something we've dealt with on the dealership level with trade-ins where, right? Yes, I know that's what you bought your car for from somebody else. And I know that's what we also offered you for your car 6-8 months ago. But that's not what we're looking at now. And I know we do that with our people also, where it's sure, if the market's the same, then you should be making X. But if the market's not the same, this is what the pay plan would pay.
It's really hard to reverse premiums. It's hard. It's easy to go up. But it's so hard. And this is everything. This is when the manufacturer raises prices. This is when your people make a certain number. It's so hard to go backwards. I would say almost impossible.
Question is who's keeping track? So the next time that there's a corona or whatever, we've kept track of the playbook. So we know what are the things to do this time.
That's right.
If we've learned,
I don't even know if that's going to help because it wasn't one thing. It was so many interconnected effects.
It's called a cluster.
Yeah,
actually. But all right, listen, to wrap things up, what initiatives? So I want spill. What initiatives are you taking at the store? What are the pitfalls that you're trying to guard against? So what initiatives or what training specifically are you guys focusing on? What's the threat? And then how are you guys going to train for it? So what do you got for me?
So mine is hybrid technology. I think we're good, but not great at it. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share an example. I was at the Toyota National Dealer meeting and it's in Vegas. So I was playing a little blackjack and the blackjack dealer, we started having a conversation, and she's a 35-year Toyota owner. Now she has a Lexus, but she can never drive a hybrid. You know why she can't drive a hybrid, Daniel?
I don't.
Because she's scared to death to put a charging station in her house. A hybrid doesn't need a charging station. Our consumer is not even educated on what the deal is. So I'm going to work on education on hybrids because that is the way Toyota is leaning. And if I feel like if I can have the best experts in the industry on the product, then I can win more than I'll lose.
That's. I'd also like to just find out who from Toyota of Henderson or Toyota of Las Vegas was heard her say that and was like, "Oh yeah, you shouldn't do that." There's crazy.
You just didn't understand, and people don't know what they don't know, and she certainly didn't know.
And it starts with the people. Right.
Yeah.
Jen, what do you, I know you're always planning. I know you're going to have to divulge. You're going to have to
No, I got a million things, there's a million ways I could respond to this. I'm trying to figure out which one to go with. Let me think.
no, it's fine. You can think about it. I mean, I know Matt's always staring at me, ready to yell at me about something.
Oh.
No, I'm not yelling. And I think more experienced dealers than me could say, all right, kid, I tried that and, good luck. But I mean, I'm really trying to find more services that we can bring in-house. With the advent of electrification, we know that there is going to be a dip in some sort of service revenue. So I want to try to bring stuff like wheel repair, paintless dent removal, and windshield in-house for my team. And people could laugh at me and say it's a small thing, but I want to train a group of people, and I want to bring those services in-house because I think there's a major opportunity with the loss of revenue from electrification to bring those in-house.
And I'll just give you one. And I'll give you one point to consider with that. No one said that just because you're servicing EVs, that doesn't mean you can't have a different matrix or different labor grid for servicing those EVs, right? Because you have to, if you're going to have to pay more for the technicians, and you're going to, even if the SPG, the time might be the same, you're gonna have to pay more, and you have considerably more resources to do it. Your grid doesn't have to maintain the same. So that could be a topic for a different episode, but just so you know, I'm of the contention that it does not necessarily mean lost service revenue for you.
I'm with you. And I know that with any new technologies brings a lot of glitches and issues, and I'm sure we'll be right there to make a nice margin on that.
We're unfortunately dealing with a good amount of glitches right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's,
I'm just going to throw out, I also see it, as new entrants come into the market without a dealer network. We know that our expertise is servicing and taking care of customers and offering these products to people that buy Teslas, Rivians, Lucids, stuff like that. Being a service provider for these EV companies, I think is a major opportunity that we're looking inward as well.
Okay. Jen, bring it home.
All right. I'm going to give a different spin to what you guys have given us.
There you go.
So, and it's fresh on my mind because I was just with this group, a big dealer group, last week. And I was actually really surprised, and I see it all the time, that a lot of managers don't know how to use the CRM. A lot of managers are not in the CRM, and they're not managing process in the CRM. And here's the thing: if we're going to nurture client experiences, and I think we all agree on this episode, that's king. That's what we really have to dial into. But if the managers aren't managing the process, this is where I find a lot of deals. They do save a deal every day, but this is just like business from yesterday. But a lot of these customers are taking 2 weeks, 2 months, to pull the trigger. So there's actually an extended sales process now. And if you dial into it, and I'll just give you a quick example. There's like old processes, stuff from that made sense a year ago, 2 years ago. For example, check your auto responses. Like a lot of times I see stuff that even says COVID. I'm like, is this a joke? Like, did you not read your auto response? It's like the first impression of your company. Okay, it's time to reassess the sales process and what these messages look like. Now, in this group, they had a lot of auto sales processes set up. So this means that not only had the salespeople started to rely on AI that was coming in and doing the follow-ups for them. Okay, it's the same thing Patrick said earlier, different take, different spin, but you start relying on technology so much that there's no personal touch. And then the managers aren't in there a lot of times even looking for notes. If you're going to focus on customer experiences, why don't we have showroom visit notes, especially if they walked, so that we could personalize the messages? In a lot of cases, I only see text messages go out, but it's not enough because they drag you through the coals and ghost you. You got to pick up the phone and call somebody. You got to call a friend.
We're probably all guilty of that. I mean,
so you got your showroom process type, but you got to get in the CRM. And then I'm always shocked when I find out the sales managers, a lot of them don't even know how to use the system.
If you saw a picture of one of your used cars and it still had snow in the background, then you'd be like, we need to take a new picture. That's obviously an error in the process. But then we don't do the same thing for CRMs. See? Yeah. I'm telling you, that's a whole other episode. How well do your managers know the CRM is a whole other. If I hear that on an all things something or another, by the way, I'm going to be lodging a protest. But we are out of time for lucky number 7. We will be back for episode number 8. I'm not sure if we're going to we're going to do an episode live.
We're going to do it live.
Yeah, so get ready for those kinds of shenanigans. Holy cow. I'd like to also take a moment to thank our sponsors. I'd like to have sponsors to thank. If we had any, we would. And other than that, you guys can make sure you catch up on the previous episodes, because as you know, we have inside jokes and we bring them up in whatever the current episode is. But I want to thank the panel for joining us today. Matthew Haiken, thank you so much. Patrick, Abad, and Jennifer Suzuki, thank you guys for making time in your calendar. And we'll see you guys in the next episode of The Wheelhouse.